Welcome to the Nutritious and Delicious podcast with me, Bethany. Our mission is to support busy parents all over the world to learn time management while taking care of your nutritional, physical, and mental health. After all, a healthy family starts with a healthy parent. So I'm really excited today. I have Suzanna with me here, aka Sizzle, and she is a transformational life coach and powerful birth professional, meditational guide, and energy healer coaching. She does this with men and women to become their best selves in order to achieve a better life. So, through nurturing guidance, emotional intelligence, and empowerment coaching, she specializes in embodiment coaching for life transitions, especially for the rite of passage of parenthood, beginning with conscious family planning, pregnancy, childbirth, and postpartum. Suzanna has coached over hundreds of families by transforming their fears, uncertainties, and doubts into empowerment, confidence, and trust, increasing peace, happiness, and joy in the homes of children around the globe. So I'm so excited that you're here, Suzanna.
Thank you for having me, Bethany.
Yeah.
So beautiful to connect with you.
Yeah, I love it. This is a great topic. Today, we're going to be talking about minimizing stress at home. And Suzanna would be the perfect person to talk to about this because she's obviously dealt with lots of different families. So I would love for you to be able to share your story with us and kind of how you got started with working with families.
Yes, thank you, Bethany. My story, wow, I really feel like this has just been my life's journey. Being 6 years old, my little brother was born. I had an older sister, lots of younger cousins. Grew up in Kentucky, so very family oriented, and just really was always a natural nurturer and leader. So as I grew up, I knew in high school I wanted to study psychology. In college, dove into child development. So passionate about working in the community as a nanny, as a daycare teacher. And I went off after college and studied at Yale for 2 years. I was in an autism research lab, and I worked on the front end of the lab, working with families coming from all over the world. And it was such a beautiful opportunity for growth, for research and clinical experience. And I thought I was on the road to be a child psychologist. And I realized during that 2-year fellowship that I was so much more drawn to families in the community, working in their homes, the natural environment, not having so much academic expectations behind us.
Yeah.
So I was still babysitting in the community, and I fell in love with that really in-home environment. Like I said, I could really see the transformation in that connection in the home. So I went on and became an entrepreneur. I was a learning coach in schools. I was a nanny and a household manager, a chef. I was however I could serve families wherever I was. And I realized that it all starts with the parents, right?
Yeah.
So as much as I was drawn to working with children of all ages, of all different developmental levels, I kept realizing that I saw within the eyes of the children the stresses of the parents, you know? So I became interested in this idea of becoming a doula. I traveled to Puerto Rico. I met a beautiful woman, told me her birth story, and I was like, wow, doula, that's perfect. Let's start at the very beginning. I'm so passionate about prevention and early intervention. And so that's really where I started my own business out of Denver, Colorado. I've been helping families now for really 17 years when you include all of my beginning work, in high school and college, and really understanding that it starts with the mother and the father, even before pregnancy, right? Looking at the lives of the individual, the individual self. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. That's a lot of different aspects that you've got. Like that's crazy, the amount of like work experience that you've had, and you've kind of just obviously gone throughout, like from babysitting to like being a doula to working. And that's really interesting that you said you worked with like autism and stuff, because you probably saw a lot of different things as well. But it sounds to me like throughout the whole experience, you've kind of realized like it always goes back to the parent. And I think that's why you and I connected so well, because, a healthy family does start with a healthy parent. And being a mom myself, I know that. And, kind of witnessing other people and sort of how they're raising their children and things like that. Children, they can't change everything because of their environment at home, right? So it is very interesting that we have to kind of get to the parent first in order for the children to sort of like be able to be okay and level up and minimize that stress and stuff at home. So I would like to kind of find out from you, like throughout your experience and stuff, what are some suggestions that you have with facing massive amounts of stress in the home, and what parents can do sort of for themselves and everyone else? Because I think a lot of people think everybody else is the problem, like it's my kid that's the problem or my partner that's the problem. But I think a lot of people don't realize it starts with them. So I'd love for you to give me kind of your first one.
That's a big responsibility, right?
Hmm.
Just accepting that you are the biggest influence, right?
Yeah.
And not only your own life, but your family's life, your children, your neighbors, right? Like, so it starts with you. And I think it takes discipline and
Hmm.
responsibility. So I think like the first step, had so much insight from so many different ranges of families, not only in clinical and research experiences, but in the home, right? The
Hmm.
most, where you can just lay everything down, you're hopefully safe and comfortable. So I've walked into homes that feel very stressful, and
Hmm.
there's usually um, young children, pets, clutter, outside noises, right? TV's on, dishes in the sink, So, me as a nanny and as someone that has really prepared myself to come in and minimize the stress on a day to day, moment to moment basis, I would say first thing is regulating the breath.
Hmm. Yeah, for
So,
sure.
setting boundaries around how can I understand that when I take a deep inhale and then an extra long exhale, so making the exhale longer
Hmm.
than the inhale, you're automatically telling your nervous system that you are in a safe place.
Hmm.
You're motivating your parasympathetic that you can rest and digest even when the external environment is stressful. Your
Hmm.
internal nervous system is getting those signals like, okay, I can handle this. I trust in myself. I'm confident. I can take what's being thrown to me.
Yeah.
So
So
the breath.
that's great. Setting boundaries, I find for a lot of ones for moms. This is a hard one, and I've had to learn it myself. But setting boundaries with your children in terms of like time and space for yourself, because especially when
Mhm.
you do have little children, you're kind of mauled all the time by them, and you want to be giving and loving. But I find that when moms are kind of touched out, burnt out, they're kind of like in this mode of like, I just don't want anyone to touch me. I just want to be in like a room on my own. And that tells me like they haven't had any boundaries like all day. And it doesn't have to be anything big. It could just be like a 5-10 minute like break, no touch. And I just want to be in my room quietly, like listening to music or something. Because it's almost like what you just said is you walked into the house, there's so much stimulus. And I
Mhm.
found even as a mom myself, like when they're little, there's so much stimulus going on, whether they're crying and someone else is screaming, there's pets going on, there's
Mhm.
all the to-do list to do, and the touch all day, it's kind of like you're tapped out. So for me, I had to really learn very fast, especially when I became a single parent. I had to learn that I needed that setting of a boundary with my children first, because otherwise I wasn't going to be in a good place for them.
Totally. Right. And you can motivate them just by or modeling it,
Yeah.
right? Like I understand with small children, you know, you have to really find the priority to fit it in
Right.
as far as like breathing. I mean, it could be 3 deep breaths in the moment with your
Hmm.
children. I mean, allow them to witness you going down from a dysregulated state to a regulated state,
Hmm.
be that model for them. Um, as a yoga and meditation instructor, like modeling is huge.
Hmm.
I'm at the airport feeling frazzled, just breathing, modeling it for my surroundings. So
Right.
I would encourage mamas to just find that discipline right within to say, I'm not worthy of being stressed out all the time.
Right.
I'm worthy of being regulated. So let me start with some breath right here in front of everyone, right?
Yeah.
Like 3 deep breaths. Now, if you can take a separate room, then by all means do that. Stepping
Mhm.
outside, getting sunshine. I like to focus on the senses,
Mhm.
that's going to help you calm down and getting out of the head and into the body.
Right. This even goes for dads too, because it just made me think like dads also lose
Mhm.
their cool too. And, they're kind
Mhm.
of, well, moms too, they can get angry and stuff fast. And that's usually where the boundaries hasn't come in place. I would suggest to parents who are in those situations, whether mom or dad, and you are feeling frazzled, frustrated, there's too much going on, too much noise, step outside for like literally a couple of minutes, and even just taking in the sunshine. Like I do that at my
Mhm.
front deck because I get the most sunshine, and even just having that sun on your skin for about 5 minutes and just coming back, and you feel so much more refreshed, and you're able to sort of like do that for your children as well. Like again, like you said, like doing the breathing exercise, like it's good to teach them as well, the role models and being an example. So I think setting boundaries is a great one. What's your number two?
Well, it definitely links in. So when you
Mm-hmm.
set a boundary around, okay, I'm going to take care of myself first. Yes, everything needs to be done in the house. The children need me as well. I'm going to start the day with taking care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And this is number two, is to regulate your nervous system. The more that you can regulate your nervous system, meaning truly understanding and feeling your emotions. I help women and fathers, men, mothers, everyone
Mm-hmm.
understand what it feels like to feel anger, to feel sadness, to feel anxiety, and learning from those, right? All of our emotions are very wise teachers. So we
Right.
don't want to suppress and ignore and shut them out. We want to invite all of them to the dinner table, as I like to
Right.
say. So we want to understand how to regulate our nervous system. So that can look like many different things for many people. I think self-care is oftentimes kind of looked down on, I think, as a parent, like, oh, self-care, I don't have time for that. But we
Mm-hmm.
have to prioritize it.
Right.
When else, how are we going to teach our children to care for themselves, right? So self-care, that goes into hygiene, that goes into just the daily mind, body, and spiritual rituals that we do to keep ourselves from
Mm.
not losing it, in
Yeah,
this
I
crazy world.
agree. I think a lot of people, if you think about it, most people wake up and the first thing they do is either check emails or they watch the news. And it's like right away you go
Mm,
into this fight and flight, and you kind of wake up going, oh, like I have to do this thing, or look what's happening on the news today. And it's just it takes
mhm,
away and steals sort of from that regulating the nervous system, like you said. So a few things that we like to do is we like to kind of do like morning routines, and I kind of like to do mine where I wake up really early. Like I wake up sometimes about 5 a.m. and I wake up before my boys because I want to make sure that I have that time that the house is quiet, and I get
mhm,
a coffee or a tea, and I sit down and I kind of start doing my work. And it's probably because I'm the most focused at that time, so I prefer doing it during the morning, and then I have more of my time in the afternoon to kind of give to them. So, and other people do as well, like journaling in the morning. Like I know people that will journal and write notes morning and afternoon, and it's kind of that brain dump, like getting rid of kind of like the
mhm,
excess of the day. And for me, it's physical, it's exercise. So for me, like if I haven't
mhm,
worked out in a few days, I can feel it. And it's not even so much a physical thing. It's like mentally, it's like that brain dump. You're just trying to get that the energy out, whatever is kind of like consuming in your body. Because a lot of people hold emotion in their body as well. And I'm probably one of them myself.
mhm.
So for me, it's like I need that physical exert. So that's another
Totally.
way to kind of
Yes.
regulate your system too. So
Yes,
that's
and even
wonderful.
dancing, like,
Yeah.
what I have a couple stories that come to mind, as far as tending to other people's children.
Mhm.
One of them is helping a family that was from out of town in Denver for a wedding.
Mhm.
They found me as being, or they were referred to me from someone within the wedding community, and
Mhm.
they needed a babysitter. So I had never met this family before. They had one child, and I meet them at the hotel, and the child was asleep, and it was totally not ideal for them to
Right.
leave me, them to leave the child with me in the hotel room asleep. So I knew that we were, and I was in for it when that
Right.
child woke up. This child was under 5. He was verbal and but a very young child, and
Yeah.
to wake up with a stranger in the room and in a strange room, hello,
Yeah. Where am I?
here.
Yeah.
So what do I do, to regulate my, not only myself, because I was anticipating this break meltdown, but to regulate him. And so automatically, it's about 5 or 6 in the afternoon. Open the shades up. Let's get some natural light in. He wakes up, and of course he had a crying spell. I can't remember how long, it felt like forever.
Yeah.
But he was definitely sad and scared. And so reassuring him with affirmations, you are safe. Mommy and daddy will be back. And I
Mhm.
started mimicking and role modeling play. So he had some blocks in the room, and I was just like giving him his space, letting him come around,
Right.
offering him water, snacks, so I'm trying to help regulate him,
Right.
through my own regulated system. And it took a while, but by the end of the night, I think I offered, let's go out for a walk. We went up to the top floor, and we were like stargazing in the city by
Yeah.
the end of the night, and we were
Yeah.
friends. But it definitely just shows that, like, when you can understand your own body awareness, emotional, and though I turned on some music too.
Yeah.
That goes back to that dancing and kind of swaying and just realizing that, like, this is a safe space for
Right.
both of us. So that was very challenging. That was not ideal at all for me to come in,
No,
and
that I wouldn't
I was
probably
very
put you in
surprised
that
by the
situation.
parents. Yeah, I was surprised. There's been multiple times I'm like surprised by the parents, but I just gained experience and insight and carry
Yeah.
it further. Yeah.
That's great that you can see that because obviously before I had children, I used to babysit as well, and people used to leave me with their children before they were asleep, and they still had issues with being scared and things like that. But
Mhm.
what you just said about the whole like kind of giving them space and playing, that's what I used to do as well, is that you start
Mhm.
playing with their toys and they start to kind of pique an interest in you.
Mhm.
And sort of at home too, I think with engagement, like if kids aren't engaging, especially if they're little and stuff, start playing and taking an interest in sort of what they're interested in, and it kind of creates more of a bond. Because I think we're just so go 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 all the time that like kids are sort of
Mhm.
like forgotten. Same with sort of the pets and stuff, and everyone's just kind of got this like crazy energy. And a lot of the time it's because like parents are like ships in the night passing each other, so that's one thing. And there's so much commotion sometimes, and then it's like, okay, maybe you haven't seen mom or dad all day, and then they're bringing the kids home, they're excited to see you, and they've got literally like an hour or two for wind down before bed, and it's like they're trying to compact their whole day in with their children, and trying to regulate, and sort of just like, I need to just get up for work in the morning. And I'm sure parents are anxious too, that like they've got a million things to do once the kids are in bed. So I think just what I do with my boys as well is when I notice they're kind of out of sorts, is that I kind of slow down and I'll start
Mhm.
spending like some time with them. Okay, let's do some reading. Let's just sit and watch a movie. And it's just they want that cuddle time, that calm time, and it eases them into sleep and their next day even better. So I love that one. So
Beautiful.
what is your number 3?
For decreasing stress in the home, number 3 is organization.
That's a key thing. Mhm.
So, organizing, that goes into, like, again, like, really regulating your external, right? So
Mhm.
you have your internal environment, of course, that is your temple, and your external is also your safe space, your temple, where you want to
Mhm.
find comfort and joy. And so how can we organize? How can we make tidying up fun, enjoying it, bringing children into it. I'll never forget teaching, 3-year-old twins how to fold laundry,
Yeah.
and making it fun and having
Yeah.
like fun music on. And so understanding that these things are going to keep your environment healthy and safe and comfortable. And so how can we find joy within those in your
Right.
daily rituals?
That's awesome. I love, like you said, you were teaching them how to fold laundry age 3, because I think about the age of about 2, 3-ish, I was getting them to put their own plate in the dishwasher, and yeah, like kind of putting their socks together and things like that out of the laundry. And like now they're doing quite a bit. They're 7 and 9 currently, and they're very independent in that sense, because they're so used to kind of making it a fun game, even as a kid. Like
Mm-hmm.
that, those young ages as well, getting them to clean up. Like there's so many times where kids, I watch and they kind of make a huge mess, and then like their parents like let them leave it, and their parents are cleaning it up, and it's a huge mess. But what I used to do with my boys is, yeah, make it fun. Like who can get it in the basket? Like you kind of doing this
Mm-hmm.
tossing game and stuff like that, and you're making it fun and funny for them, and you do that at an early age. And I think people kind of do these things late. So it's part of like keeping your house organized if you are very like tidy yourself, and you want to keep
Right.
that kind of, because I think a lot of parents give up and say, oh, well, the house is just a mess, and we leave the basement like a tornado because that's their space. But then you're kind of inviting all this like chaos into the home, right? And saying it's okay for them to kind of live like that. And then they never sort of learn for themselves. The other thing too, I was thinking of when you said organization, is routine. And I found that was
Mm-hmm.
having that sort of like structure and organization, especially when like all this stuff happened with kids going, back home from school and things like that. Like we had lockdowns obviously for a while.
Mm-hmm.
That was a key spot for me where I noticed there was like chaos in the home again. And I was like, what is going on? Like we had our routine of working from home, my partner and I, but the problem was we didn't sort of have this organization of like what was to be expected at home with this like new environment of like being homeschooled. So I ended up having to sort of go to the dollar store and get like kind of like schedule like a whiteboard and like write things down. As soon as there was like a schedule in place, it was like peace. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I was like, that's it. They just needed to have like a routine to follow, because I thought, I didn't want to sort of like put them in this routine where they felt like they had to, but at the same time, it was kind of like unorganized. And I realized like I need to have this routine going for them, and it massively changed everything. And the other thing I kind of normally do as well is meal planning, and I definitely have like their lunches all set up, like all their lunches are set out for the week, so they know exactly what they can have, and they pick their own snacks, and they have to pick the fresh food and stuff, and like some of the non-fresh food, I guess, what we would like granola bars, crackers, all that kind of stuff. But that's kind of our organization, and we flip the chart and make sure everybody kind of gets a turn to kind of do these things. So I think that's part of like staying on top of that routine and organization as well.
Beautiful. No, I love those tools. And yes, the routine, like we're habitual creatures, and so and that's again goes back to those early morning habits. What are you going to choose first? That goes back to discipline.
Right.
And it all ties in with regulating your nervous system. So even when you spoke to me about that, like you found those routines, it like I could just hear how it makes you calm,
Yeah. Yeah.
knowing what you're going to serve. I mean, I love doing the meal plans,
Yeah.
having 5 meals on the whiteboard, knowing what I'm going to make, knowing, okay, I'm going to make a grocery list for this, and like giving yourself this sense of purpose in the home,
Mhm.
and always tying it into gratitude. I would encourage, if the dishes are full in the sink, not looking at it as, oh my God, there's so many dishes, but we just had a beautiful meal. Like we're so
Mhm.
blessed to have food and have
Right.
water. I mean, all of these things that we totally take um, advantage of,
Yeah.
just the basic needs. So tying it into like having fun, how can we incorporate children into meal planning, into cooking, into grocery shopping? These are all skills that they need to learn. And most of the time, especially young children, they want to help,
They do.
they
Yeah.
they do. So we need
And
to give them that space and that opportunity. And knowing that everything has a place. If everything's dysregulated in your home setting, then that's going
Yeah.
to affect the internal setting.
Right. There's so many,
Yeah.
like, when I think about so many little things, they do like to help. And I think including them, I think as moms and dads and stuff, it's kind of in their head, oh, it's just easier if I do it. And I hear that a lot and then
Mm.
mom and dad feel burnt out that, oh, we have so many things to do, but you're not including the children. So then they never learn. And then it just becomes, the more children you have, the more workload you have. And it becomes dysregulated. So, what would be your number 4 about managing stress in the home?
I would say build your village. So
Right.
this can look different in everyone's family, whether you have extended family near or far, whether you have a good relationship with them, right?
Mhm.
We want them to be like healthy relationships. So whether it's family, your own partner, hiring people, neighbors, community, it goes back to really, again, regulating your nervous system. We're not meant to do this all alone. We
No.
never were meant to do this all alone. We're social creatures. We come from a tribe setting. And really, the way that we have really isolated all of our family units is not sustainable, really, for
No.
our future environment, for our future wealth and happiness. So, how can we build your village,
Mhm.
looking within the internal family and then looking into outside professional help, even like hiring a coach to help you regulate
Mhm.
your emotions and your nervous system, right? Looking at having childcare help, even an au pair. I have many families that will invest in an au pair instead of daycare and have someone living within the home to help with meal prep and laundry and also childcare. And then, of course, like having household cleaners and just outsourcing some of the load if we
Yeah.
can afford to. And then, especially within like the big transitional times of, say, a move or a new baby, right? Like
Mhm.
having some really, I say, get your team together. What do you want to call it? Your village, your team,
Right.
especially for postpartum.
Right. I
Yeah.
can give you a few examples of these because it's very hard, I think, as a mom, especially a new mom. You think, oh, I can do everything myself, and I had to learn the hard way, unfortunately. But I think since I have been a mom, I've really had to sort of like learn who I can rely on. So a big one is trust. I think a lot of
Mm-hmm.
moms, like even if I reach out to some people and say like, look, I can help you look after your children and stuff like that, and they know me pretty well, like sometimes it's hard. It's hard, especially your first. You're kind of like, I don't know if I want to give my child over to somebody else. But I definitely with my first, I really struggled. I didn't ask for a lot of help. I thought it's because I didn't require it or I wasn't supposed to need help because again, in the Western society, we're very much like, just get on with it. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
that was kind of my notion in my head. Now, second time around, I ended up actually hiring a doula for my birth, and mainly it was for afterwards because I was so worried that I would slip back into postpartum tendencies like I did with my first. So I hired a doula to help me transition because I was really scared of kind of like just being thrown in the shark tank again. And I had at that point, I think my eldest was 22 months old, so not even quite 2 years, and I just had a new baby. So this lady helped me for about 4 weeks. Every day she came in, like got me fed and made sure like she looked after me and my eldest son and just basically let me feed my baby, was doing the laundry, was prepping like lunches and dinners and stuff like that for me. Just basically was my right hand woman and was amazing, and then transitioned kind of me slowly into doing it myself. And I felt way more confident because I kind of had that time to rest and relax and things like that. So that was one I hired out. When I became a widow, my sons were, I think they were 3 and 5 years old. So that was 2018. Again, that was kind of like another, I really had to rely on a lot of people in my life. And even to the point where I had neighbors and they asked me like, is there anything I can do? And I said, well, you know what? Actually, yeah, like I wouldn't mind. Would you be able to shovel my driveway, my sidewalk and stuff for me in the winter? Because again, they were little and kind of having to do it myself, I felt so overwhelmed. And you're like, no problem, like we'll do it, no worries. And I just thought, oh, maybe a week or so, but they pretty much did it like the whole winter. And I was like, thank you guys so much. And
Yeah.
as I am a very caring person, I made sure like I gave them lots of different things and I made them cookies and all that kind of stuff to thank them. But it was just so nice, and things like that, like people that I didn't really
Mhm.
feel like had my back, like really, really did. And even when you're moving and things, like I moved when my second was 2 months old. I had a lot of friends and stuff like that help us, because you're moving with like a 2-year-old and a newborn baby. And it was like, I can't do all this on my own. Like, so I actually had a lot of people help then. So yeah, definitely putting family, friends, neighbors, other professionals inside of that. Like, it doesn't always have to look like you have grandparents or whoever. Like, there's even friends that will look after your children and help you out and give you a night off. Like, just, you have to be able to trust and rely on people, for
That
sure.
is key, Bethany, is that trusting piece and
Yeah.
also the receiving, right?
Hmm.
Like, yes, that is so important. And all of that really comes from the heart,
Hmm.
and I think like our mothers, our grandmothers, they were doing it mostly alone unless they had extended family, like
Hmm.
this whole idea of even hiring a doula, postpartum doula, birth doula, pregnancy doula, this is fairly, a new idea for our culture, but
Right.
it's not new in the sense of like woman to woman support,
Yeah.
and building a tribe and like realizing, like I always say, like, women are the leaders, fathers too, of the next generation. Like, so
Hmm.
we need to be honoring them. And it's just, it's really not in our culture from a top down in our society
Right.
setting. And so it's the children that get affected by it. And that's really
Hmm.
why, another reason why I do what I do is for the children of the world to have a better future. And it starts with me and you,
Hmm.
and in the day-to-day, moment to moment. And I love that, going back to what you said about slowing down,
Hmm.
like slowing down and realizing that I can't do this all alone. It's too much of a load. Even
It
when
is.
with your husband can't do it all alone.
Right.
Like, it's not even, you can't put it all on grandma either, you
Right.
know? So, gaining all this insight, not only from my clinical and clients, but my family, and extended family, and learning that how can I be a better auntie? How can I be a better mom before I have children,
Hmm.
and it starts with the individual. So that's why I like to say transformational coaching. How can I help you self actualize into your
Hmm.
highest self? Really, for you, it's going to trickle down into your
Hmm.
village, and it will allow you to open up those channels of trust and how to receive the abundance of a village, abundance of life, of happiness. And
Right.
our brains are wired for survival, right? Like,
Hmm.
this I this idea of the social brain is fairly a more evolved state, and so we are social creatures, but we're definitely wired to survive, not to thrive. And
Hmm.
that's really an old paradigm. We're shifting in, we're evolving more and awakening and ascending really into these higher states of being alive, and it
Right.
definitely includes community and village. And so, as a postpartum doula, I always help families plan that team. It can't be all on me either, right?
Right.
Like, as much as I can be a therapist, household cleaner, chef, babysitter, massage, all of these
Yeah.
things, I find myself having to outsource some of my own services, because it does lead to burnout, and it
Yeah.
will lead to burnout if you don't
Exactly.
get help.
Exactly. You have to rely
Mhm.
on sort of a team of people. And yeah, grandma can't always do it, or a certain person can't always do it. You have to be open to receive. And I think that I was very,
Mhm.
yeah, I wasn't open to receiving, I think, with my first baby. And I really struggled. And I think that's where a lot of women I help today, they're kind of like, I don't feel like I can ask, and things like that. So again, it's that, those affirmations of like, I am open to receiving, whether it's abundance, whether it's help, things like that, right? So open
Mhm.
to that.
Mhm.
That's amazing. What is your last and final one for managing stress in the home?
is incorporating nature.
I love
So
that.
it goes to a couple different things that come to mind is like incorporating the elements,
Hmm.
right? Earth, air, water, ether, fire. So, how can we incorporate nature with the sunlight, flowers? I love fresh flowers.
Hmm.
I love having even a candle lit or a fireplace, or, how can we bring in the elements? Because we are nature, right? We just have this human aspect that makes
Right.
us human nature. So, how can we incorporate Mother Nature? So healing, divine, abundant, and supporting us through the different seasons. How can we bring that into our four walls of a house?
Right. You just make me feel like I want to go on a hike right now.
Yes,
I'm
it's
just
so
imagining
healing.
nature. Yeah, because it changes so much. Like for me, like actually what made me think about it is it changes the mood. It changes the setting. So you think about like a fire or a candle. It's like romantic, calming,
Mhm.
peaceful, and it's kind of like you're sort of bringing down the energy, a bit more relaxation, right? And I think it's where a lot of people
Mhm.
sort of just sit and meditate and feel good, and it's that cozy feeling. And that's what I do sort of in our house as well. Like when we have people over and we're doing like a family gathering, I sort of like do that unintentionally. I think is like lighting some candles. So it's sort of like bringing the whole energy down of like everybody, because I know everyone gets all hyper when they see each other. So I'm trying to sort of like set the mood, I guess. But then you think about like going on a nature hike and you feel energized and excited and refreshed, and that you're working out and that you actually like you're free, and like it's a different
Right.
feeling, right?
Yes.
And I did a lot of
Yes.
that in the summer with my boys too. So um
Yes. So how can we do that in the winter, right? Like there's all these, and that's the beautiful thing about technology. There's all these new inventions. There's sun lamps, there's
mhm.
diffusers. You can get aromatherapy. You can get, cedar atlas oil in your whole
Mhm.
home smells like a beautiful cedar forest,
Yeah.
like how can we incorporate these things into our environment, and it allows us to really involve again the five senses,
Mhm.
and how can we find pleasure in nature? Like I hear a lot of times, oh, I can't keep a plant alive, or that's just one more thing I have to take care of, and it's like really switching that
Right.
mindset,
It
and perspective.
Yeah, it's the way you see it, right? Like if it's another thing to do on your to-do list, like you've got the wrong mindset going,
We need to
right?
work on the village then.
Yeah.
If you can't water your plants, we need to work on your village.
Right. Yeah.
Or if you don't want to have plants because you have to take care of them, we need to work on that heart space,
Right.
because not everyone wants to have plants in their house. I know sometimes my plants have brought in little critters, especially in the
Yeah.
winter. So there again, it's going to look different for each person.
Right.
But going back to like your boundaries, and really nourishing the senses. And
Mhm.
I find that nature even comes into like self-care, right? The forest bathing, even taking a walk. You don't have to be in the forest, but you can just be in the park, fresh air, sunlight, water, going back to hydration, right? And that
Mhm.
helping to regulate the nervous system. All of these are interconnected. And I think, as a life coach, I really help people see the interconnectedness of the internal and external realities and
Right.
spaces that we carry through life. Mhm.
And like you said with water, that's pretty telling, because you think about how many people like, you gravitate towards a lake or the sea or anything. Like I grew up in the UK and I was around the seaside quite a bit. And then here we're kind of more land-based, but even just going to like the lake or like a river, it's like, or a creek, especially because I used to play in creeks when I was a kid. So like it's very therapeutic and
Mhm.
it takes you back to that fun, playful energy. And I think that's what we do almost like
Yes.
on a weekly basis with the boys, is we take them to like rivers and stuff and they throw rocks in. So like they'll probably remember that when they're adults, and it's like a peaceful place for them. So I think nature is like a wonderful thing. But that was amazing. Like I love all those 5 topics that you've talked about, because I'm doing quite a few of them myself now. But obviously, being a new parent, a lot of the times, I think it is that if you're telling yourself, I don't have the time to do these things, or it's another thing on my to do list, you need to kind of go back to the basics and sort of look at,
Mhm.
like, yeah, like, where are your boundaries, and are you actually utilizing the family dynamic, like, to help you, or friends and things like that. And your mindset is key, I think, as well, before kind of going into those new things. So it was a pleasure having you on. I'm really excited to actually take some of these tools that you've told me as well. So I really appreciate it. How can our viewers actually connect with you today to learn more about what you offer, Suzanna?
Thank you, Bethany. It's a pleasure to share a lot of my insight and knowledge
Mhm.
from many years of family work. You can find me online. I am on Instagram at Positive Postpartums. I also have a website. It's www.positivepostpartumsingle.com or .org, sorry. And then I am on a new platform called Heal Me. It's connecting practitioners to clients all over the world. So I'm on heal.me/Coach Sizzle. And the Sizzle is a nickname that I adopted, and now I'm bringing into my professional career as a coach, helping others embody their unique sizzle within and what that looks like as far as life coaching and transformations.
I love it. So I will actually post these as well in the show
Oh,
notes for
good.
anybody. So you can have the websites both, so you can actually contact Suzanna. So once again, it's been a real pleasure. So thank you so much for coming on, Suzanna, to the Nutritious and Delicious show.
Yes, it was so nutritious and delicious, Bethany. And I just want everyone to like tap into that childlike wonder and play, right? And go do something today that is just going to fill you up with that joy and happiness.
Awesome.